What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Journey to You. My name is Courtney, and I can finally introduce myself as a 26-year-old. I'm so excited to be back with you all. In today's episode, we're going to be speaking about my number one tip, sort of the main key to the happiness that I've been able to cultivate. It's something that I'm still sort of fleshing out, but I figured let's talk about it because the upcoming episodes are going to be a little bit on the heavier side, and I feel like we just need to break up the heavy momentum. And yeah, so what better way to do that than speak about happiness? So we're going to be discussing detachment, or non-attachment as some people call it. I feel like my birthday is usually a very reflective time for me, and I realized this year that over the past year or so, a lot of the happiness I've been experiencing is directly related to my effort to exist freely. So as someone who is pretty anxious at times, I did try my best to anticipate as many outcomes as possible. And my thought process behind doing that was, if I could anticipate any and everything happening, I could better prepare for it. That is not the case. There have been so many times where life threw curveballs at me, and there was no time to go back in my arsenal of information and research to act accordingly. I really ended up having to think on my toes and just do things more spontaneously. I feel like the more that I embrace uncertainty, the more relaxed I am. It's kind of interesting because I've spent so long being anxious and worried about the future and how things are going to pan out. So there's a lot that I've had to consider over the years, whether it be relationships, people, just rules and guidelines in life. As an adult, I'm learning that it's okay to exercise some more agency over my life, and I don't have to do what people expect me to 24/7, because at the end of the day, this is my lifetime, and in order for me to feel fulfilled, I have to know what my wants and needs are and act accordingly. I feel like it sounds a little bit harsh, but time and time again, life shows me that it's what I make it. And so in order for me to feel fulfilled, I have to do what works best for me. So everyone, I do want to be clear that when I say detachment, I'm not talking about sitting back and letting life happen to you. I definitely believe that in order to get the most out of life, we have to take an active approach. But I've noticed that life just goes more smoothly when I'm more intentional about where I place my energy and my effort. So in my experience, I've learned that it doesn't really make sense for me to stress over things I can't control. And I think that that's something my dad has repeated to me over the years, but it just wasn't resonating because I was so used to working out of fear. So that fear propelled me to do as much research as I could, and like I said, try to circumvent anything negative or anything unfortunate from happening. But it doesn't work like that. And my dad is very big on experiential learning. I think that's good because my dad did equip me with the theory part, but I didn't apply it. But then he still gave me the room to learn the lesson on my own and then come back and have that conversation with him later. So my dad always reiterates not to worry about stuff we can't control, especially when it comes to situations where other people are involved. So I've learned that the best that I can do is the best that I can do. So I do my part and I try my best to detach from the outcome. I've seen that I get so hell-bent on things happening one way. I freed myself even of my own expectations. Somehow things ended up working out a lot better for me. So that's been interesting. And so even though it took very long, I sat back and I thought about it. I did, everything that I could do, but I didn't obsess over a specific outcome. And it can be difficult, especially being an anxious person and being, the rule follower type of kid, because growing up, I just followed the rules. I thought that was the best way to go through life and that would garnish the best results, but it doesn't always work like that. The key to my happiness, and again, this is just my experience, everyone. I hope it resonates, but I don't want to speak for other people. So for me, I've learned that embracing uncertainty, focusing more on what I can control, and knowing what makes me truly happy have helped me get to that fulfillment and that happiness that I was in search of for so long. And it's not just about detaching from relationships and about people. I think I kind of was alluding to detaching from specific results or outcomes, but also from ideologies and opinions of other people. A lot of the times there are just so many ideas like being thrown at us, and I've really had to sit down and like sift through what makes sense to me. And that's why, again, I'll go back to this time and time again. I really feel like getting to know yourself is like the most important thing ever. It's the best thing because it's the only way that you can sort of define what your baseline is. And then from then you get to decide what resonates with you, what doesn't, what's going to help you learn, what is just going to cause you straight up pain and despair, and go from there. Although I was an anxious kid, I was also extremely curious. And so now I find myself asking a lot of questions just for clarity. And so I can find out what ideas resonate with me. And again, we'll always go back to it. I really feel like taking the time to get to know myself is one of the best things that I could have ever done, because who knows me better than I know myself? And if I'm going to put effort into cultivating any happiness or any fulfillment in life, it has to be directly related to my wants and my needs. So aside from values and wants and needs, it's very important to figure out what makes you happy. And I'm talking things that we just gloss over in life, like what kind of music makes you happy, what kind of company, what kind of food makes you happy, what's going to be best for you. I think sometimes we have so much more control over our lives and over our happiness than we want to believe at times. When I really pulled back and thought of how I could make the best of things, I didn't have to worry about what the outcome would be because it was fully dependent on me. It can be a little bit daunting, when everything is on your shoulders, but my happiness is for me. So it's not really something that I want to be in the hands of other people too. I want to be able to fall back on myself when I need myself most. So with it being my birthday and everything recently, people were asking me how it felt to be 26. And that's a question that I used to dread because my 20s have not been easy, and specifically around my birthday, as I mentioned, it's a very reflective time, but I feel like for every year up until 25 and now 26, I was really struggling. So it was not a question that I looked forward to answering. But this year, when people asked me, the only word that I could think of at the time was peaceful. And I've only been 26 for a week now, but in thinking about it, I realized that what I'm experiencing is inner harmony, and it's such a beautiful thing. It's something that I've been after for quite some time. So back in 2019, I specifically remember one of my therapy sessions where I was crying. Like I was crying so much, and I was asking my therapist if I'll ever feel like one person, like one being, because at the time I felt broken. I think that's what broken, at least for me, that's what feeling broken felt like. So I felt like I was being pulled in just like so many different directions, and I didn't feel like myself. Obviously, I was existing, I was going through day after day, but I didn't feel good. I just felt all over the place. And now that I'm out of that kind of phase, I can say that for me, that was what inner conflict felt like. I was trying to make sense of a lot of ideas and a system that was being projected onto me, one that I knew didn't resonate with me, one that I knew did not align with who I was. But at the same time, I didn't know enough about myself. I didn't know enough about my values and my morals to sort of just get myself out of the situation. So now, 2 years later, I think about it and I look at my reality, I look at my relationships, and they reflect what's in my heart. They reflect my values, my morals, and just my basic wants. Like, it's so much better, you guys. And I didn't realize what I was after was harmony. I didn't know that. I just was after a feeling that I wanted to cultivate for myself. So having gone through all of that, I can definitely say that putting my energy into doing the work, and that can look like so many different things for people, but for me, it was just like understanding the intricacies of what I was dealing with at the time and then looking for solutions. And when I didn't have any solutions, I prayed, I journaled, and I started going to therapy. And I guess in that process, I started to detach from a specific outcome. So I ended up just putting my energy into what I could control in the present versus constantly worrying about the future and the past and things like that. Because one of my biggest fears was having my future reflect or look like anything remotely close to my past. Like, I was very worried about cycles repeating themselves, but now it's like, no, girl, like you have a say in your life. You have, again, this is me talking to myself. So now I know for a fact that I have a say in my life. It's okay for me to advocate for myself, and the right people are not going to take my boundaries as insults. They're actually going to be happy to learn about me in that way, and they will adjust if necessary. And that's just how things have been. And I think on that note too, I probably felt like I would be lonely if I was too loud or doing too much or asking for too much. I think that taking the time to get to know myself prior to 2019, I had never really thought about it very deeply. I was just going along with whatever ideas had been projected onto me. So it took me being very misaligned, I guess, or things just being all over the place and sort of like this deep feeling like in my gut. I just knew that the reality that I had in 2019 was just not working for me, like on a sort of on a soul level. I know this sounds very deep and like just yeah, guys, but it is a very deep thing. You know, it took a lot of pain for me to and have the will to push through that and then figure out how I'm going to create my life. Like that's it. I mean, life is for enjoying, you know. I shouldn't be stressed out 24/7 and sad and worried, you know. And it's not even a matter of like having any sort of intense confrontation. It's just like, no, like certain things just don't resonate with me, and that's okay. And I also wasn't created to just be in any and all spaces. And so in me wanting to make the most out of the time that I have here, I've had to unlearn a lot of what I've learned and just exist freely. For someone who's just so used to like being a rule person, you guys, and following guidelines, it's really important that I free myself of those constructs and start to create what it is I want to see in my life. And so that's where I go back to the whole detachment piece, because it's like, if I just do my work and free myself of having to worry about how things come together or exactly what's going to come together, I have more energy to make informed decisions and to be about that action, you know? I think in the past, I spent so much time worrying, so much time being sad and just stressed out. And in the end, I just wasn't doing my best work. And so I think adopting this detachment it's helped me so much, and I feel so much more at ease. So yeah, so back to my dad's advice, I think I ended up just focusing on the work and detaching from the outcome. And I said to myself, you know, I don't have to be healed by a specific year or a specific time. Like it will come. And it just so happens that around my 26th birthday, I now feel like I know what inner harmony is. You know, I can really speak to that. It's so nice to see my work and the love that I have for myself reflected in my friends, in my family, and in my work, you know, even here on YouTube. And I think that's my motivation just to keep going now. I know this episode was a little bit less structured than my previous ones, but I just wanted to speak to the experiences that I've had to date. So I'm hoping that you guys are still able to take the message away. It can definitely be scary, you know, having to sit with yourself and figure out everything, really. But again, as I always say, totally worth it. And just remember that if you're on this kind of journey, just be patient with yourself. Time is an illusion. Don't worry about all that. Things will come together. I just think we got to stay committed to ourselves and to the journey. So that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week. Bye.